Ryan lived on a quiet farming world far from the great cities of the galaxy. His home stood near wide fields where tall grasses swayed under the pale light of two suns. Life here was simple. He repaired machines for his neighbors, worked in the fields during the day, and in the evening sat by his small fire, watching the stars. Many people on his world dreamed of leaving one day to join the great fleets or to see the vast cities that floated among the stars. Ryan, however, felt no rush. He found peace in the rhythm of soil, stone, and sky. He loved the sound of the wind in the hills and the way the night sky stretched forever. He thought little of wars or rulers, for they seemed very far away from his life. One late evening, as the last glow of the suns faded, Ryan noticed something unusual in the sky. A bright streak of fire cut across the stars, growing larger with every heartbeat. At first he thought it was only a falling stone, but the sound that followed was too loud, too heavy. It roared like a beast, shaking the ground. Then, with a blinding flash, the object crashed in the hills beyond his farm. Smoke curled into the night. Ryan hesitated only a moment. His village was small, and no one else was near enough to help. He grabbed a lantern, a water flask, and a small kit of tools. With steady steps, he crossed the fields and climbed the rocky path toward the hills. The smell of burning metal grew stronger, and sparks danced in the darkness. When he reached the site, he saw the remains of a shuttle. Its hull was torn open, edges glowing from heat. One wing was broken against the rocks, and smoke drifted from within. Ryan moved carefully, afraid the ship might explode, but then he heard a sound that made him forget his fear. A faint voice. He rushed to the broken hatch and peered inside. The cabin was dark, lit only by small sparks from broken wires. Among the twisted seats lay a figure. A woman, her clothes torn, her face pale. She struggled to move but fell back with a faint groan. Ryan climbed inside, ignoring the heat against his skin. He lifted the fallen beam that trapped her legs and pulled her free. She was lighter than he expected, though her uniform was heavy with dust and ash. He carried her out into the cool night air. Her eyes opened for a moment, shining with pain and exhaustion. She looked at him as if unsure he was real. Her lips moved, whispering only one word. Myra. Then she lost her strength and went still. Ryan checked her breathing. It was weak but steady. He gave her water and placed his jacket around her shoulders. He had no idea who she was or where she came from, but he knew she would not survive the night in the open air. Gently, he lifted her onto his back and began the long walk home. The journey took hours. The hills were rough, and the night grew colder. Yet Ryan kept moving. Each time he grew tired, he remembered the way she had whispered her name. Whoever she was, she deserved a chance to live. When he reached his home, he placed her on his small bed and lit the fire. He treated the wounds on her arms with herbs and wrapped a bandage around her head where she had struck the metal. He cleaned the dust from her skin and gave her sips of water until she rested more easily. Through the night he watched over her, repairing small cuts, cooling her fever with damp cloths, and listening to her restless whispers. She spoke in her sleep, words that made little sense to him. Names, places, and commands as if she were speaking to people unseen. At dawn, she opened her eyes fully for the first time. She looked around the small room with confusion, then her gaze fell on Ryan. For a moment she seemed ready to speak many things at once, but instead she said only a quiet thank you. Ryan nodded. You were hurt. I found you in the hills. You are safe now. She studied him, perhaps expecting fear or questions. Yet Ryan asked none. He only set a bowl of broth before her and waited until she had the strength to eat. My name is Myra, she said again, her voice stronger this time. Ryan gave a small smile. I am Ryan. You can rest here as long as you need. She seemed surprised by his calm reply. Many times, strangers had spoken to her with awe or fear, but never with such simple kindness. She wished to tell him more, but something held her back. She had learned long ago that names carried weight, and her name carried more than most. For now, it was enough that he knew only the word Myra. As the suns rose higher, Ryan returned to his fields to tend the crops. Myra watched him through the window, her mind restless. She was far from her world, far from her fleet, and she had no idea how long she could remain hidden. Yet here in this small home, in the care of a stranger who asked nothing in return, she felt a kind of peace she had never known in the grand halls of power. That evening, when Ryan returned, he found Myra sitting near the fire, her strength slowly returning. He taught her how to mend a broken tool, showing her the simple ways of his trade. She laughed softly at her clumsy attempts, and he laughed with her. In that small sound of shared laughter, a bond began to form, though neither of them knew how greatly it would shape the galaxy. Days passed after Ryan had found Myra in the hills. The small home, once quiet, now felt alive with her presence. She moved slowly, careful not to strain herself, yet her eyes never stopped watching the world outside the window. She studied the fields, the rising suns, and the simple tools Ryan used every day. There was curiosity in her gaze, yet something deeper lingered, something hidden behind the calm expression she wore. Ryan did not ask many questions. He was content to let her recover in peace. He brought her water from the well, shared meals, and sometimes guided her through fixing a broken plow or a damaged tool. Myra watched him with quiet fascination. Humans were strong in ways she had not fully understood. They were simple, yet clever. They faced life without fear of their limits, and that reminded her of something she had long forgotten. "Your home is small, but it feels alive," Myra said one morning as she sat by the window. Her voice was soft, almost like a whisper. Ryan smiled. "It is enough for me. I like the quiet. You can rest here as long as you need." She looked at him for a long moment. "I am grateful," she said. There was honesty in her words, but a caution too. She said little else. Myra had always been careful with strangers. She knew that revealing her past could bring danger to anyone she cared for. Yet she could not hide her fascination with this simple human who had given her care without question. As the days passed, Myra began to move more freely around the small home. She helped Ryan in minor chores and learned quickly how to handle tools. Ryan was impressed by her adaptability. He had expected a weak guest, someone fragile and tired from the crash. Instead, Myra displayed focus and quiet intelligence. Even in her weakened state, she approached every task with precision. "You have a clever mind," Ryan said one evening, handing her a small device that had stopped working. Myra smiled faintly. "I have had to learn many things in my life. Some useful, some less so." Her gaze drifted to the night sky, and for a moment she seemed lost in thought. Ryan noticed it, but he did not press. Instead, he spoke about his own life, about the simplicity of farming, about fixing machines, and about the nights spent watching the stars. Myra listened, occasionally asking questions, and sometimes just nodding as she took in his words. There was comfort in these exchanges, a peaceful rhythm that both enjoyed. Despite the calm, Myra remained cautious. She had spent her life commanding fleets and ruling systems. She had learned that even a kind gesture could hide hidden motives. She did not yet trust Ryan fully, yet she sensed a rare quality in him. He helped without expecting anything in return, and in that, he reminded her of why humans were often underestimated. Their strength was not in weapons or technology alone, but in their ability to care and act with courage. One afternoon, as the suns were high and the fields shimmered with heat, Myra asked to see the stars through one of Ryan's small telescopes. She adjusted the lens carefully and studied the distant lights, tracing patterns with her finger. "They are beautiful," she said quietly. "So far away, yet so bright." Ryan looked over her shoulder. I think they watch over us. Some people say they are stories, others say they are guides. I like to think they remind us of what is possible. Myra turned to him, her expression unreadable. You have a kind way of seeing the world. Most humans would not understand the danger that lies beyond these suns. Ryan shrugged. Danger comes to everyone. But it does not mean we stop living. We do what we can, and we keep going. Myra's heart lifted slightly. Here was a human who understood the essence of life, even without knowledge of the vast galaxy. She wondered how many rulers would pause to listen to someone so ordinary. She realized that power did not always mean wisdom. Ryan had a kind of wisdom she had rarely seen among leaders. The village nearby became a place of curiosity for Myra. She watched from the hills as humans went about their daily work. They smiled, argued, laughed, and sometimes cried. Life was simple, but real. Myra found herself longing for the quiet honesty of these small moments. She wanted to be free from expectations, from the endless responsibilities of her throne. Ryan noticed her growing curiosity. He showed her the small market, the simple tools for repairing machines, and the ways people solved problems together. Myra absorbed everything, quietly studying not just the tools and methods, but the human spirit that made them work. She admired their persistence, their cleverness, and their ability to find joy in small victories. Evenings became their favorite time. They would sit by the fire, Myra resting her head on a pillow while Ryan told stories of his childhood, of machines that refused to work, and of the strange animals in the fields. Myra laughed more freely than she had in years. The simple warmth of companionship, the trust without expectation, filled her heart with peace. Yet Myra knew danger was never far away. Somewhere across the galaxy, people searched for her. She had enemies, even among those who served her. Ryan could not know this, and she intended to keep it that way. She would stay as long as it was safe, learning about this small world and the man who had helped her without question. One evening, as the suns dipped low and the sky painted itself in orange and violet, Myra asked a question that surprised even her. Ryan, why do you help me so freely? You barely know me. There is nothing I can offer in return. Ryan smiled and shrugged. I saw someone who needed help. I did not think about reward. Sometimes, it is enough to do the right thing. That is all. Myra looked at him for a long moment, studying his honest eyes. She had expected fear, or hesitation, or even greed. Instead, she found kindness and courage. It was a rare combination in the galaxy, one that could inspire loyalty, respect, and even change the hearts of rulers. That night, Myra lay awake, staring at the ceiling of Ryan's small home. She thought about the worlds she ruled, the ships in orbit, the messages she would have to answer soon. She wondered if she would ever find peace again once she returned to her throne. Yet, here, in this small house on a quiet world, she felt a sense of belonging that no crown could ever give her. Ryan, meanwhile, had no idea who she truly was. To him, she was simply Myra, a traveler in need of help. He did not know that she had the power to command fleets, to rule systems, or to change the fate of entire planets. He only knew that she was injured, and that she needed him. In helping her, he unknowingly showed the greatest truth about humanity, that even small, ordinary people could do extraordinary things when guided by kindness and courage. The days on Ryan's quiet world had grown routine. Myra moved more freely now, helping with small chores, studying the stars, and listening to Ryan's stories. Though she still kept her past hidden, a subtle tension lingered in her eyes. She knew that somewhere across the galaxy, people were searching for her. Her position as Queen of the Galaxy carried enemies, even among those who served her. And Ryan had no idea of the danger approaching. One early morning, while the suns were low in the sky, a group of ships appeared in the distance. They were sleek and dark, moving with precision across the horizon. Myra recognized their markings immediately, though Ryan did not. She rose from the small breakfast table and moved to the window, her gaze narrowing. "Ryan," she said quietly. "Ships are coming. They are looking for someone." Ryan followed her gaze. "Ships? Who would come here? This world is far from everything." Myra hesitated. She could not reveal her identity yet. "Just be careful. Stay inside for now." Ryan nodded, though his curiosity was strong. He could feel the tension in the air, a sense of urgency he had never felt before. He moved to secure the doors and windows, while Myra silently observed from the shadows. Her mind raced. If the soldiers discovered her, it could lead to a confrontation that no simple village could survive. The ships landed with a soft hum, setting down near the village without alarming the people too much. Soldiers in polished armor stepped out, their movements disciplined and precise. Their eyes scanned the village carefully, as if expecting someone to appear from the shadows. Myra's heart sank slightly. They were her own loyal soldiers, trained to find her wherever she might hide. Ryan, still unaware of the full truth, grabbed a small tool from his belt. "I will protect the home." "Stay behind me," he said firmly. Myra studied him, her mind torn. She wanted to tell him the truth, to warn him of the soldiers' loyalty and skill. But she also wanted to see how far this ordinary human would go to protect someone in need. There was a strange courage in him, one that reminded her of the human spirit she had always admired. As the soldiers moved closer, Ryan created small diversions. He knocked over barrels, cut small wires to trigger alarms, and even used old farm equipment to create loud noises in the wrong direction. The soldiers paused, puzzled by the strange obstacles. Myra could see the ingenuity in Ryan's actions, and she felt a mixture of admiration and worry. He had no training, no weapons, yet he was clever enough to confuse trained soldiers. One of the soldiers moved toward Ryan's home, eyes sharp, scanning the small house. Myra held her breath as Ryan stepped out, standing tall and calm. "This is private property. You should leave," he said. The soldier paused, confused. "We are looking for a woman. Have you seen her?" Ryan shook his head. "No one is here but me. You should not enter." The soldier frowned. He was trained to command respect, but Ryan's simple courage and firm stance gave him pause. The village nearby watched silently, fearful of the strangers but sensing the strength of the young man defending his home. Myra knew it was time to act. She whispered a quick suggestion to Ryan, who understood at once. Together, they led the soldiers away from the house using clever distractions. Ryan guided them toward broken tools, false tracks, and small fires he started in the fields. Each move was carefully planned, though done with simple materials. Myra followed his lead, impressed by his ability to think clearly under pressure. Hours passed as they drew the soldiers farther from the village. Myra remained hidden, careful not to reveal her presence. Ryan's cleverness continued to surprise her. He was using knowledge he had learned from years of work on machines and fields to manipulate the environment. The soldiers were trained to follow orders, but Ryan's creativity made them doubt their path. Finally, as the sun dipped low, the soldiers began to retreat slightly, frustrated and confused. Myra breathed quietly, grateful for Ryan's actions. She realized that this ordinary human had saved them both, not with weapons or power, but with courage and cleverness. His heart and mind had been stronger than she could have imagined. They returned to the small home, tired but safe. Myra looked at Ryan, who was wiping sweat from his brow and cleaning his hands. "You were amazing," she said softly. "You saved us." Ryan shook his head. "I was just trying to protect someone who needed help. That is all." Myra studied him, her eyes filled with admiration and something else she could not name. He had no idea that the woman he protected was the most powerful person in the galaxy. To him, she was just Myra, a traveler in need. To her, he had shown the kind of courage and kindness that leaders across worlds often lacked. That night, Myra could not sleep. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about the day's events. The soldiers had come so close to discovering her. If Ryan had not acted with cleverness and bravery, they might have been forced into a dangerous situation. She realized that humans were underestimated for a reason. Their strength was not always obvious, but it was always present when it mattered most. Ryan, meanwhile, cleaned his tools and repaired the small damages from the day's chaos. He felt tired but satisfied. Helping Myra had been simple in his mind. Protecting someone in need was just part of life. Yet there was a quiet pride in knowing that his actions had made a difference, even if he did not know the full truth. Over the next few days, life returned to a quiet routine. Myra stayed mostly indoors, still cautious but slowly regaining confidence. Ryan continued his work, but he remained alert, always aware that the world could change in an instant. They spoke less of danger and more of simple things, the stars, the work in the fields, and the quiet beauty of the world around them. In these moments, Myra began to trust Ryan more deeply. She realized that the bond forming between them was unique. He had helped her without question, without fear, without expectation. And in doing so, he had reminded her of a truth she had long forgotten, that courage and kindness could exist in the smallest acts, even far from fleets, thrones, and armies. The soldiers had come and gone, but the lessons of the day remained. Myra had seen the strength of one human heart, and she knew that it was rare. She also knew that the galaxy beyond this world would soon demand more of her and of Ryan. The quiet peace they shared could not last forever. But for now, she allowed herself to rest, to recover, and to watch this simple human who had shown her more bravery than many of her own generals. In the night sky, the stars twinkled as if acknowledging the bond between the queen in disguise and the farmer who had saved her. Myra whispered quietly to herself, a secret she would never tell aloud. "You are extraordinary, Ryan. More than you know." Ryan did not hear her words, but he did not need to. For in his mind, the night was calm, the stars were bright, and he felt a quiet sense of purpose. He had helped someone in need, and in that simple act, he had already begun to shape a story far larger than he could imagine. After the visit of the soldiers, life on the quiet farming world settled into a delicate routine. Myra stayed mostly indoors, still cautious but growing stronger every day. Ryan continued his work, repairing machines, tending fields, and going about his simple life. Yet, despite the calm, there was a quiet change in the air. Both of them sensed it, though neither spoke of it directly. Myra began to take small walks with Ryan. The hills and forests surrounding his home were filled with beauty she had long forgotten in her life as a ruler. The wind that rustled the tall grasses, the way the sun touched the hills, and the quiet hum of nature brought a rare peace to her heart. For the first time in years, she felt free from expectations, free from the heavy burden of a galaxy that relied on her every decision. "You seem at home here," Ryan said one morning as they walked along a narrow trail through the hills. Myra smiled faintly. "It is very different from the places I have known. Life is simpler, yet it feels real." Ryan nodded. "I like it here. It may be small, but it has everything we need." She studied him for a moment. "You are kind. You do not ask for reward or recognition. You help simply because it is right. That is rare." Ryan shrugged. "I do not see why it should be anything else. If someone is in need, why would I ignore them?" Myra looked away, letting the words settle in her mind. There was a wisdom in Ryan's simplicity that she had rarely seen among those in power. Leaders often made decisions based on fear, politics, or pride. Ryan acted from the heart, without overthinking or planning for personal gain. That courage, that honesty, fascinated her. Over the next few days, Myra joined Ryan in his work around the small farm. She learned to repair broken machines and discovered a surprising talent for understanding their mechanisms. She laughed openly when she struggled, and Ryan laughed with her. These simple moments were a balm to her spirit, and she began to realize that happiness could exist even in the smallest, quietest places. One afternoon, as the suns cast long shadows across the fields, Myra spoke about her curiosity. "I have seen many things across the galaxy. I have traveled in fleets larger than cities, and yet I feel incomplete. I do not know why the world is so different here, yet I feel more at peace than I ever have before." Ryan looked at her, his eyes calm. "Maybe it is not about what you have seen, but how you see it. Sometimes the simplest things are the most important." Myra considered this, realizing he was right. The galaxy beyond was filled with power, with wealth, with armies, and politics. But here, life was measured by effort, care, and connection. Ryan's world, though small, reminded her that true strength did not come from command or fear, but from the heart. As the evening came, they sat together near the fire, sharing a meal of bread and fresh vegetables. Myra's laughter rang clearly as Ryan told a story about a machine that had refused to work until it received a gentle touch. She felt a warmth she had not known in years, a simple joy that required nothing more than presence and kindness. "You have a rare spirit," Myra said softly. "Even without power, without armies or ships, you inspire loyalty and trust. I have never met anyone like you." Ryan smiled but looked away modestly. "I only do what I can. That is all." Myra's thoughts wandered. She wondered how different her rule might have been if she had known more humans like Ryan. Leaders often underestimated ordinary people, yet here was a man who had faced danger, confusion, and uncertainty, and still acted with courage and wisdom. She realized that humanity's strength was not always visible, but it was always present in those who acted with heart. Days turned into weeks, and their bond grew. Myra began to confide in Ryan, though carefully, about her thoughts, fears, and the challenges she faced in her life. She spoke not of her title or power, but of the pressure to always act correctly, to make choices that affected millions, and of the loneliness that came with responsibility. Ryan listened, never judging, only offering quiet support. His presence became a refuge, a place where she could be herself without masks or expectations. One evening, Myra and Ryan walked to a hilltop to watch the stars. The sky was clear, and the constellations stretched endlessly across the darkness. Myra adjusted Ryan's small telescope and pointed toward distant worlds. "Do you ever wonder what is out there?" Ryan asked. Myra smiled faintly. "All the time. But I have learned that it is not the stars themselves that matter. It is what we do beneath them. The people we help, the lives we touch, the choices we make." Ryan nodded. "That is exactly how I see it too. Stars are beautiful, but they do not feed us, repair our machines, or help us when we fall. People do." Myra's heart lifted. Here was a human who understood what many leaders never did. Strength came in quiet ways, in courage without glory, in care without reward. She realized that her admiration for Ryan had grown into something deeper. She respected him not for what he could give her, but for who he was. The bond between them became unspoken but powerful. Ryan taught Myra patience, humility, and the value of small acts. Myra reminded Ryan of courage, resilience, and the beauty of curiosity. Together, they formed a partnership, not of power, but of mutual respect and trust. Yet Myra knew their quiet peace could not last forever. Beyond the skies of this small world, forces stirred. She was still the queen of the galaxy, and her absence would not go unnoticed for long. But for now, she allowed herself to remain, to walk among the hills, to laugh, and to share simple moments with Ryan. One morning, as they worked side by side in the fields, Myra looked at him with quiet determination. I will have to leave one day, she said softly. But I want to remember this. I want to remember how simple courage and kindness can be the greatest strength of all. Ryan looked up from his work, brushing sweat from his brow. Then we will make the most of today. Whatever happens tomorrow, today is ours. Myra nodded, feeling a rare sense of peace. She had come to the small world seeking refuge, but she had found something far greater, a human heart that reminded her of the true meaning of strength, compassion, and trust. And though she carried the weight of galaxies on her shoulders, she began to understand that her bond with Ryan was a treasure no power could replace. As the sun set behind the hills, casting golden light across the fields, Myra and Ryan continued their work. They shared stories, laughter, and quiet moments of understanding. Though the galaxy beyond waited with its challenges and dangers, for this time and place, they had found something rare, a bond beyond status, a connection that could endure anything, and a reminder that even in the smallest world, the heart could shine brighter than any star. The calm days on Ryan's small world were not to last. Myra had grown stronger, and her trust in Ryan had deepened. She admired his courage, his kindness, and the way he never sought reward for helping others. Yet, the galaxy beyond the quiet hills waited for her, and she could no longer hide from her responsibilities. The soldiers who had searched for her once were still out there, and the time had come to face the truth. One clear morning, the horizon shimmered with the approach of ships, larger and more numerous than before. Myra felt a familiar tension tighten in her chest. She turned to Ryan, whose eyes widened at the sight of the vessels descending. They are coming again, she said softly. This time, I cannot hide any longer. Ryan stood tall, though uncertainty shadowed his features. We will face them together. I do not know who they are, but I will not let them harm you. Myra looked at him, a mixture of gratitude and sorrow in her eyes. She had come to care for this ordinary human who had saved her life and who had shown her the quiet strength of humanity. Now she faced the moment when she could no longer keep her secret. As the soldiers landed near the village, Myra stepped forward, her presence calm yet commanding. Ryan followed, unsure of what to do but unwilling to leave her side. The soldiers halted in surprise, their focus fixed on Myra. I will speak, she said, her voice steady and clear. Listen carefully, for I have little time. The soldiers immediately recognized her. She was Myra, the queen who ruled the galaxy, the one their mission had sought. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight as they knelt instinctively before her. Ryan watched in amazement, trying to understand the sudden shift in the air. Myra turned to him, her expression soft. Ryan, you must understand. I am Myra. I am the queen of the galaxy, the one they have been searching for. Ryan stared, speechless. The woman he had helped, laughed with, and trusted was the ruler of countless worlds. He had never imagined such a truth. For a moment, the weight of her words hung between them, heavy yet full of meaning. I don't know what to say, Ryan finally replied, his voice calm but filled with wonder. I only helped you because it was right. I never imagined, Myra smiled faintly. And that is why I trust you. You helped without knowing my power, without expectation, without fear. That is a rare quality, even among humans. The soldiers stood quietly, waiting for her command. Myra addressed them with calm authority. These are my people, loyal and skilled, but they must know that this man is not a threat. He has saved me, and for that, he has my gratitude. Leave him in peace. The soldiers nodded, their eyes full of respect. To them, Ryan was still just a human, but Myra's words made clear that he had earned her trust and admiration. Ryan could feel the weight of her respect, and though he remained modest, he understood that his actions had mattered more than he had ever realized. As the soldiers prepared to depart, Myra spoke to Ryan again. You have shown me the strength of humanity. You are brave, clever, and kind. You remind me that leadership is not only about power or fleets, but about courage, compassion, and the choices we make every day. Ryan listened, humbled. I only did what anyone would do. I helped because it was needed. Myra shook her head gently. No. Most people would have ignored me or acted out of fear. You did not. That is why you are extraordinary. In the quiet that followed, Ryan finally asked the question that had been on his mind for days. Why did you hide? Why did you not tell me? Myra looked down, thoughtful. I had to see the truth. I needed to know if humanity could show strength without knowing the reward. I had ruled worlds where people feared my power, obeyed because of my position, not because of respect or care. I wanted to see if someone could act purely from heart, and you have shown me that they can. Ryan considered her words. I never thought my simple actions could matter to someone like you. They matter more than you realize, Myra said. Her eyes shone with sincerity. You have reminded me of what I once believed and sometimes forgot. That courage and kindness are the greatest forms of strength. The soldiers, now at a distance but still attentive, watched silently as the scene unfolded. Myra's words carried weight, and Ryan felt a strange pride. He had not acted to gain power or fame, but his choices had shaped a moment that could influence the galaxy. Myra's fleet commander approached, kneeling with respect. Your Majesty, the humans here are extraordinary in their own ways, but this one has shown exceptional courage and wisdom. Ryan looked at Myra. I do not understand fully, but, thank you for trusting me. Myra's gaze softened. It is not only trust. It is recognition. You have reminded me that even a simple human can inspire greatness, can change the course of events, and can influence the choices of rulers. You are rare, Ryan, and I will not forget it. The commander nodded. Shall we depart, Your Majesty? Myra glanced at Ryan one last time. Yes. But know this, Ryan, you have earned a place in my heart and in the story of my life. When the galaxy calls, I will not forget the man who helped me without knowing who I was. The fleet prepared to lift off. The villagers watched, amazed at the sight of their queen departing, escorted by ships that seemed to touch the sky. Ryan stood at the edge of his fields, feeling both awe and a quiet satisfaction. He had helped someone in need, and the outcome was beyond anything he could have imagined. As the fleet disappeared into the distance, Myra spoke softly to herself, though Ryan could hear her words. You are extraordinary, Ryan. Your courage and kindness will remain with me always. Ryan, still processing the revelation, returned to his home. The world felt unchanged in its fields and hills, yet he knew that everything had shifted. He had helped someone in need, and that act had revealed truths about bravery, trust, and the power of the human spirit. That night, as the sun set and the stars began to shimmer across the sky, Ryan looked up and felt a connection to something far greater than himself. Myra, the queen of the galaxy, had trusted him. She had acknowledged his courage, his kindness, and his humanity. And though he remained an ordinary man, he had learned that ordinary people could achieve extraordinary things. Myra, traveling through the stars, reflected on what she had seen and learned. She realized that power was not enough to inspire loyalty or respect. True leadership came from recognizing the strength in others, even in those who seemed small or insignificant. Ryan had shown her that humanity's true strength was not in fleets or armies, but in courage, compassion, and choice. Ryan's life had changed completely. The quiet fields of his home now felt distant in memory, yet they remained a foundation for the man he had always been. Myra had invited him to travel with her to her flagship, a vast vessel that floated like a city among the stars. At first, he hesitated, unsure if a simple human like him had any place among such grandeur. Myra's gentle words, however, convinced him. You have shown courage and wisdom beyond measure. I want you by my side. Not as a servant, but as a friend and advisor. Ryan stepped onto the flagship for the first time, his eyes wide with wonder. Towers of gleaming metal, corridors filled with lights, and ships docked in massive bays stretched as far as he could see. People of many different species moved with purpose, speaking in languages he could barely understand. Yet, amid all this, Myra walked beside him, calm and confident. She had returned to her duties, but she wanted him to witness the heart of her world. "This is incredible," Ryan whispered, gazing at the scale of the fleet. Myra smiled. "It is only impressive because it is new to you. To me, it is a responsibility. Every person, every ship, every decision affects lives across the galaxy." Ryan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He realized that ruling a galaxy was not simply about power or wealth. It required wisdom, care, and constant attention. Myra carried this responsibility with grace, yet he noticed the strain in her eyes. Leadership was heavy, even for someone as capable as she was. In the following days, Ryan was introduced to her advisors and generals. Many were skilled and knowledgeable, but some looked at him with quiet doubt. How could a simple human from a small farm possibly contribute to matters of galactic importance? Myra watched their expressions carefully. She wanted Ryan to understand her world, but she also wanted the leaders to recognize that sometimes, strength came from unexpected places. Ryan quickly discovered that he could help. Not with technology, not with strategies, but with perspective. He spoke plainly, without titles or expectation, offering advice based on logic, honesty, and compassion. When one of the advisors suggested strict punishment for a rebellious world, Ryan asked a simple question: have we tried understanding why they acted this way? Perhaps kindness and guidance could bring loyalty faster than fear. The room fell silent. Myra's advisors were surprised by the simplicity and clarity of his words. Myra, however, nodded. She had always believed that power alone was not enough. Ryan's perspective reminded her of a fundamental truth: leadership was not just about control, but about understanding, empathy, and the choices leaders made every day. In the following weeks, Ryan spent time learning about the workings of the galaxy. Myra explained the importance of trade, diplomacy, and the maintenance of peace. He asked questions, sometimes simple, sometimes difficult, and Myra answered with patience. Together, they discussed policies, planned missions, and worked on improving communication between worlds. Slowly, the leaders began to notice the influence of a human who had no title, no armies, yet offered insight that even seasoned advisors had overlooked. One evening, Myra and Ryan walked along the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Ships moved gracefully across the dark void, each carrying people who depended on her decisions. Myra turned to Ryan, her expression thoughtful. "You see now how different the galaxy is from your world," she said softly. Ryan nodded. "It is vast and complicated, but I understand why you carry such care in your choices. Every action matters." Myra smiled. "And yet, your presence reminds me that even in the largest galaxy, the smallest voices can make a difference. You have reminded me of something important, that strength is not only measured in fleets, but in courage, kindness, and honesty." Ryan felt humbled. He had never thought of himself as powerful. He had only acted because it was right. Yet, here he was, influencing decisions at the highest level, not through command, but through integrity and insight. Over time, Ryan became more than a guest. He participated in councils, offering advice that balanced strength with compassion. Myra often relied on him to test her decisions, asking, would a human do this purely from heart, without expectation of reward? His answers helped her see that true leadership required humility as much as authority. The other leaders began to change as well. They noticed that Ryan's simple logic often solved disputes more effectively than complex strategies. They began to listen, not out of obligation, but because the human voice had value. Myra observed this with quiet satisfaction. She had found someone who could remind her and her advisors of what truly mattered. Ryan also learned the human aspect of leadership. He saw that Myra, despite her title and power, was still a person who valued trust, honesty, and friendship. She treated her people with care, yet she could not always show vulnerability. With him, she could be herself, laugh freely, and speak openly. He realized that even rulers, no matter how powerful, needed reminders of humanity. One day, a difficult decision came before the council. A distant colony faced famine, and the advisors debated whether to send immediate aid or wait for resources from nearby systems. Many argued for efficiency, for strict rationing. Ryan, however, spoke plainly. People are not numbers. They are lives. Help them now, and they will remember that their leaders care. Delay may save resources, but it risks hope. Myra looked at him, then at the council. Slowly, the room agreed. The aid was sent immediately, and the colony's people were saved. Myra turned to Ryan later and said, "You see? Even the smallest voice can make a difference, even in the largest councils." Ryan smiled, realizing that his courage and honesty had found a place in a galaxy far larger than his world. Myra, walking beside him, felt relief and admiration. She had learned that leadership was not only about power, but about recognizing the strength in others, no matter how ordinary they seemed. As the days passed, Ryan and Myra continued to grow closer. Not only as queen and advisor, but as friends who understood each other deeply. He reminded her of the strength of human spirit, and she reminded him of the importance of courage and responsibility. Together, they shaped decisions that improved countless lives, proving that the bond between ordinary humans and leaders could change the galaxy itself. At night, Ryan would look out across the stars, thinking of his small world, of fields and hills, and of the life that had led him here. Myra would join him, her presence calm and strong. They both understood that the galaxy was vast and challenging, but together, they could face it. They had already proven that courage, kindness, and trust could bridge worlds and hearts alike. The human vessel glided silently through the endless expanse of stars. Inside, the crew moved with quiet determination, their previous battles leaving them alert but ready. Lyra stood beside Ryan, her posture strong and confident. She had made her choice to return to her kingdom and face her people, and now the final test awaited. Ryan watched her carefully. "Are you ready?" he asked. Lyra met his gaze, her luminous eyes steady and clear. "I am," she said. "I have learned from you. Courage and action guide the way, and I will not falter." The sensors hummed suddenly, alerting the crew to a large fleet ahead. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. The fleet bore the insignia of her loyal forces. They had assembled to support her return and confront the enemies who had tried to remove her. Ryan's heart steadied as he prepared to guide the vessel through the approaching ships. "The fleet is organized," he said. "If we approach carefully, we can join them and gain the upper hand against the usurpers." Lyra nodded. "We must act quickly and decisively. My people are counting on us." Her guards moved efficiently, relaying communications and coordinating the approach. Ryan observed the fleet carefully, noting gaps in the formation that could be used strategically. He turned to the crew. "Prepare for coordinated maneuvers. We will position ourselves where we are most effective and minimize risk." The human crew responded immediately, their training and Ryan's guidance combining with the alien technology to create a seamless operation. Lyra watched, impressed by the efficiency and courage displayed by both species working together. Suddenly, one of the enemy forces appeared from a hidden position, attempting to block their approach. Ryan's instincts guided his hands as he adjusted the vessel's course. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," he commanded. "We will draw them into open space where we can engage effectively." Energy pulses streaked across the void, illuminating the stars like fire in the sky. The human vessel twisted and turned with precision, dodging the attacks while positioning itself to support the loyal alien fleet. Lyra's eyes followed every movement, learning from the fearless decisions he made in the moment. "Now!" Ryan shouted, signaling the coordinated strike. The human and loyal alien forces moved in unison, overwhelming the enemy with combined firepower and precise tactics. The enemy fleet struggled to respond, their coordination breaking under the united assault. Lyra's voice carried authority as she gave commands, adjusting the tactics of her own fleet. Her people responded with renewed confidence, inspired by her courage and by the unity displayed by the humans. Together, they formed an unbreakable alliance, each action reinforcing the other's strength. Ryan guided the human vessel through daring maneuvers, dodging fire and creating openings for the loyal forces. His fearless actions had taught Lyra the value of decisive choice and trust in the moment. "Courage is about action, not absence of fear," he said softly. She nodded, understanding now that true leadership required both bravery and the ability to inspire others. "I see that clearly now," she said. "Your courage has shown me the path I must take." The battle raged, but the combined forces maintained control. The enemy ships began to falter, their attacks losing precision as the humans and loyal alien fleet exploited every opportunity. Ryan's instincts, combined with Lyra's leadership, created a strategy that no opponent could counter effectively. One of the enemy ships attempted a desperate maneuver to strike Lyra's flagship. Ryan anticipated it instantly, directing the human vessel to intercept and block the attack. The enemy ship collided with an asteroid, disabled but not destroyed, and the threat was neutralized. Lyra's guards exchanged impressed glances. Even they had never witnessed such fearless action combined with strategic thinking. Their respect for humans, and for Ryan in particular, had grown immensely. The remaining enemy forces began to retreat, recognizing that their attack had failed. Cheers of relief and victory spread across the comms. The loyal fleet held its position, ensuring the battlefield was secure. Lyra turned to Ryan, a smile of gratitude and admiration on her face. "You have taught me much," she said softly. "Fearlessness is not the absence of danger. It is the choice to act, to guide, and to protect." Ryan nodded. "And trust makes courage stronger. You acted with trust, and now you lead with it. That is how worlds change." The fleet began to organize, securing the area and tending to those in need. The human crew worked alongside Lyra's forces, helping where necessary and maintaining the vessel's readiness. The bond between species had strengthened through shared courage and mutual respect. Lyra turned her gaze toward her home system. The challenges ahead would be difficult, but she no longer feared them. With humans by her side, and with the loyalty of her people, she knew they could overcome any obstacle. Ryan placed a hand lightly on the console. "The future will test us further," he said. "But if we face it together, guided by courage and trust, nothing can stop us." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Then we will face it together. My people will see the strength of unity, and we will rebuild what was threatened. Courage and action will guide us." The human vessel moved steadily, carrying humans and aliens alike, bound by trust, bravery, and shared purpose. The fearless acts that had begun on a distant moon had become a legend, proving that courage could bridge worlds and inspire change. Ryan and Lyra stood side by side, ready for whatever challenges awaited them. The bond forged in fire and danger had become unbreakable. Their courage, trust, and determination would shape the destiny of both their worlds. As the stars stretched endlessly ahead, the human vessel moved forward with steady purpose. Fear had been faced and overcome, leaving only action, trust, and the promise of a future built on unity. Ryan and Lyra, human and alien, leader and protector, had gone beyond fear. Together, they had created a new path, one that would be remembered across generations as a testament to courage, trust, and fearless choice. The vessel glided onward, carrying the hope of two worlds, bound together by acts of bravery and the enduring power of trust. The legend of the human who pressed his hand against an alien princess's wound and the princess who chose to return to her people would echo through the stars forever.